This one's worth your money if you're serious about home theater. It's a solid AV receiver that punches above its price tag. But let me explain why. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've been running this Sony STR-ZA3100ES for about 2 months now, mostly in a 5.1 setup with a pair of bookshelf speakers and a sub, and I've been genuinely impressed. It's not the flashiest name in the room, but it delivers where it counts: clean power, clear decoding, and enough connectivity to keep everything tidy. If you're building or upgrading a system and don't want to overspend on overkill, this feels like the sweet spot. One of the first things I noticed is how quietly it runs. Even at moderate volumes, the fan stays cool and quiet, which is a big deal if your gear lives in an open living space. I've got mine tucked under the TV stand, and it doesn't sound like a jet engine when I'm watching late-night movies. That's not always the case with receivers in this range, so that's a win right there. Dolby ATMOS and DTS-X decoding are handled smoothly. I've got 2 overhead speakers hooked up through the height channels, and the spatial effect is really convincing for the price. It's not a full 9.1 system, but with the 7.2 channels, you still get a wide, layered soundstage that makes movies feel immersive without needing a full Dolby Atmos ceiling setup. I watched Dune the other night and the sandworm chase had real weight, felt like the room was shaking without distortion. The HDMI setup is straightforward. You get 6 inputs and 2 outputs, all 4K HDR compatible, which is plenty for most people. I've got my Blu-ray player, soundbar, gaming console, and streaming box all plugged in, and switching between them is instant. One thing to note, only the front HDMI input supports 4K pass-through at full resolution, so if you're planning to run a high-end projector or OLED, keep that in mind. But for everyday use, it's more than enough. I also like the built-in 8-port gigabit Ethernet switch with power over Ethernet support. I've got my TV, soundbar, and a couple of smart devices all on wired connections, which cuts down on Wi-Fi congestion and keeps latency low. That PoE support means I didn't need extra power adapters for my wireless access points, which saved me a few bucks and some clutter. If you're integrating this into a smart home setup, it's a nice touch. Music Connect is another feature I didn't expect to use much, but now I'm glad it's there. It lets you stream high-res audio from your phone or network without dropping quality, and the sound is noticeably clearer than Bluetooth. I've been listening to some jazz records in FLAC format, and the detail in the cymbals and upright bass is really impressive for a receiver at this price. IMAX Enhanced is a nice bonus if you've got compatible content. I streamed Top Gun: Maverick through a service that supports IMAX Enhanced, and the dynamic range and clarity were noticeably better than standard Dolby Vision. It's not something you'll use every day, but when you do, it's a real treat. Now, it's not perfect. The remote is a bit dated plastic, no backlight, and the buttons are small. If you're used to sleek touch controls, it feels a little clunky. Also, the setup menu isn't the most intuitive. I had to dig into the manual a few times to figure out how to properly assign the height channels and enable IMAX Enhanced. It's doable, but not as plug-and-play as some competitors. Another thing to consider is the power output. It's rated at 110 watts per channel, which is fine for most bookshelf and tower speakers, but if you're running high-efficiency floor standers or a big room, you might want something with more headroom. I'm using it with KEF-Q series speakers, and it's plenty loud for my living room, but I wouldn't push it to max volume for long periods. Overall, though, this receiver delivers where it matters. The sound quality is clean and balanced, the feature set is solid for the price, and the build feels durable. It's not the flashiest, but it doesn't need to be, it just works. So if you're in the market for a reliable, future-proof AV receiver that won't break the bank, this one's worth a close look. Check the link below if you want to see the latest price and details.